Hey leader, welcome to the Lead Culture Podcast. I'm Jenni, founder and CEO of the Foresight Group. If your organization is scaling fast, navigating a merger, or maybe in the middle of crisis, your culture is either your greatest asset or it might be your biggest liability. See, culture doesn't take care of itself. And this podcast gives you the clarity, the framework, and the tools to lead it with intention. So let's dive in. Hey friends, I am back. This summer, I took about 4 weeks off of work and about 6 weeks off from the podcast. And so I hope that actually gave you some space to maybe listen to some other podcasts or maybe just kind of take a break from podcasts and enjoy your summer. But wow, did that go fast? I was anticipating this, looking forward to this, and it went by in such a flash. But as promised, I wanted to share with you my learnings from my time away. When I last posted an episode, I said, hey, here's what I'm going to be doing. And when I get back, I'll share with you what I'm learning, because you hear us talk about all the time, healthy leaders lead healthy organizations, that we need to lead ourselves well to lead others better. And so I really believe that this was an important time for me to just take a little break, to get a little refresher and reset a little bit. So as a refresher, here's what I did. I took an extended time off this summer just for a healthy break, like no crisis, just it's a big year. I'm celebrating some milestones personally and professionally, and I just wanted to get some time to be instead of do, which, if you know me, is a little bit of a challenge that I love to do. I love to accomplish things. I love to make things happen, and it is hard for me to be still. But I knew that I needed it, like just for healthy rhythms, healthy leadership. And so I wanted to be instead of do. I wanted to rest. I wanted to get perspective. So while I was out, I did some fun stuff. Like I took a trip with some of my best friends, and we take a trip every year, but this one was a little bit bigger than normal. And nothing is bad about a girls' trip, right? Like girls' trips are just the absolute best. And these friends of mine, we've been friends for almost 30 years. So we know each other well. We know how to travel together, and we just had an absolute blast. I started my tea sommelier certification. If you know me, you know that I am a tea snob. Like it's never coffee, always tea. And I thought this would just be a fun thing to do, to really learn tea leaves, how tea is brewed, all the ins and outs, and study something just for the fun of it. So I did start my tea sommelier certification. It's going to take a little bit to get through it, but I've started, and it's a lot of fun. And then I also spent a good deal of time with family, especially for the 4th of July. One of my sisters has a place on the lake, and we spent just an extended weekend all together on the water, paddleboarding. Boys were golfing. We're just sitting by the fire. And that's one of the things that's really nice about Wisconsin summers, is that the evenings, you could still do a fire. And so we just had the best time just being. And so it was pretty phenomenal, like just some really good memories and moments this summer. Now, I was disciplined about not checking social media. I really stayed off of social media for most of the break, and it was really refreshing to be blissfully unaware of what all of you were doing. Like, I hope you had amazing summers, but I didn't see it. And it was really nice to just have that break from kind of all the noise that social media creates. I love social media. I've been back on it like crazy, but it was a really nice break to get away from it. I also didn't check email or Slack. I was pretty disciplined about that. There were a couple times I had to respond to a thing here or there for some upcoming stuff this fall, but those were planned and they were scheduled. And otherwise, I didn't check my email, and it was fantastic. My team totally covered everything. So I turned off Slack and I didn't look at it, and they just did their thing. And that was such a gift. I didn't overly fill my schedule, although I did fill it probably more than some sabbatical coaches would tell you. And there's probably some coaching around that for me for the next time. But most importantly, I didn't start my next book. Like I wanted to, you guys. I was like, oh, these days, the space, the time for creativity and writing and all these things that I love to do. But I knew that that would become a doing thing instead of a being thing. And I was like, no, this isn't the time to start the next book. Maybe I will get some ideas. Maybe I'll have some thoughts, but no officially starting. And I didn't. And I'm proud of myself for holding that boundary. I read some great books, and actually I reread them because these are not necessarily new, but they were really helpful. I read Ruth Haley Barton's Invitation to Solitude and Silence. And I have read this one before. It is just a grounding book in helping you think about solitude and silence. And I highly, highly recommend it. So I reread that. I've read it a couple of times. And it's amazing how when you reread a book, you see things that you didn't see the first time through. And that one was really, really good for me. I reread John Mark Comer's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, another really, really good one for me and how I operate. And it was so funny because I'm reading it and thinking, I don't remember any of this. So clearly I only retained a fraction of it the first time around. And it was really timely for me to read it this time. And then I used Alan Briggs' book, The Sabbatical Journey, as my guide. Great resource. Alan and his team do a lot of coaching around sabbaticals. And so that was a great, great resource to just help me think about that time away. So you're asking, what are my takeaways? Now, I would say that my biggest and deepest takeaway has been the wrestle for purpose. What do I mean by that? I mean that when I was busy, I was okay. And this is generally my mode of operation, right? If I have a busy schedule, if I have people expecting me, if I have responsibilities, I'm okay. I feel valued. I feel worthwhile. I feel significant because I was distracted, right? And the same was true on my break, that if I had things going on, we're with the family, I'm on the trip, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, then I was okay. But on the quiet days when I was left with me and my thoughts, I would really wrestle with not being productive. Right? I would really wrestle with, what am I doing? What should I be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And all of you other overachievers are nodding with me. They're like, Jenni, that sounds awful. And some moments it was. I remember there was an afternoon that it was just quiet and I needed to just relax and maybe do something that I enjoyed. And I was rearranging the couch cushions literally because I felt like I needed something productive to do. And those were the moments that I had to pause and I had to stop and I had to surrender them to God and just really live with the discomfort of not doing. Probably the most helpful thing that I did. And it's not a surprise to me that I confuse being with doing. That has been a challenge for me my entire journey. In fact, if you've read my book, Clout, Discover and Unleash Your God-Given Influence, I wrote that like 13 years ago. And it's really about this point. It's about discover and unleash your God-given influence, understand your influence, understand your identity and your purpose, because that's where your influence comes from. So for years, I've wrestled with this and even written about it, but it's amazing how the things that we wrestle with come back in different seasons, right? It's like we find another hurdle that we have to eclipse on the same issue. And that was a bit of what I found myself doing, was going back to some of those truths that I had written in that book and saying, hey, I know how to anchor myself in that understanding of who I am and how God has wired me, gifted in me, and created me, and coming back to that. But I found with myself struggling to feel significant if I wasn't working and I wasn't producing. And one of the most important things that I could do was live with that and wrestle through it and process it so that I would come to a healthier and better understanding of it. So I won't bore you with all the details because I don't really want this to be as much about me as I want it to be about you thinking about what does this look like for you. But here's the bottom line from my time away. Nothing magically happened on my sabbatical. I wish I had this grand aha and this big epiphany and all these big initiatives and ideas that I'm rolling out, but I didn't. And I didn't even go away with that expectation. I actually kept tempering myself to say, hey, don't go away with the expectation of that. The point is rest. The point is not production. So I slowed down. I paid attention to things that I don't often have time for. In fact, one entire day, I watched a crew take down a 225-year-old white oak tree in our backyard. And I was mesmerized. It's a story for another day, and I probably actually wrote an article about it that I'll share at some point. But I was mesmerized watching these guys with their unique and specific skill take down this massive tree in our backyard. And I actually had the space to watch it. Like in the past, I would have never been able to slow down and watch for hours at a time, but I did. And it felt so luxurious. But it also was just a gift to see other people use their God-given gifts for very specific work that's so different from mine. I didn't gain a grand vision for the future, and I didn't even have that many big ideas. I captured a few things as they would kind of float in and out, but I wasn't trying to come up with, this big 10-year vision or whatever for foresight. It was just trying to be still, be present. And I had to remind myself over and over that that was okay. If I had come away from sabbatical ready to declare all that I had accomplished, I think I may have missed the point. So since I've been back to work, it has been anything but ordinary, you guys. I mean, in fact, this week, my neighborhood was hit by an EF3 tornado. You probably saw it on the news, Wisconsin, Menasha, Wisconsin specifically, but Neenah and Appleton were hit by this monster tornado, and it has put us into a tailspin, right? Our place, we have some damage. We were kind of on the outer rings of the tornado. We were in the path, but we didn't take a direct hit, which is just absolute grace. But it was terrifying, and it has rocked our community in a crazy way. You can see my Instagram stories for some pictures and videos and things about that. It's been just a phenomenal week, from both the heartbreak and the devastation to the beauty of people serving and supporting one another. So every plan that I had was altered. I thought this was going to be the week that I would get back to normal, right? Like I'd get back in the rhythm and I'd get back to all of my producing. But it was anything but normal, and it was anything but productive. We didn't have power for 5 days, and it was kind of survival. After those first few hours post-tornado, what I came away with was the refrain that I preach all the time in our culture work. I tell people are the point. And that's exactly what happened this past week, was that just this remembrance that people are the point. And it's funny how my sabbatical and even these first couple of weeks back have continued to emphasize this in so many ways, in so many unexpected ways. The quote in my planner on the day that I returned to work was this: "The wisdom of life consists in the elimination of non-essentials." The wisdom of life consists in the elimination of non-essentials. And that's how I've had to live. I'm finding that it's my new rhythm of work, focusing on the essentials, and the essentials really being that people are the point, being present in the moment, and being purpose-driven in that. That's really been the core takeaway from me from this break. And then, of course, this week with the tornado has just put it all into perspective. The most productive part of my break was that it really wasn't productive, that was the point, that it created the mental space for creativity and for meaning. And ironically, last week, I began reading Arthur Brooks' new book, The Meaning of Life. And in it, he shares how our fast-paced, tech-driven world is robbing us of joy and meaning and purpose. And he refers to the doom loop and explains it this way somewhat. He says, for millions, especially highly educated and ambitious young people, work and life are organized as complicated left hemisphere problems. This eats away at happiness by degrading the ability to seek and experience the questions of life's meaning, the mysteries comprehended in the dark matter of an increasingly dormant right hemisphere. This makes life boring and raises depression and anxiety. He goes on to say that the problem is the mismatch between our right brain need for meaning and the left brain bias of the world we've made, which encourages us to seek technological solutions to most of the challenges of life. One of the things Arthur Brooks is so brilliant about is the data and the research that go into his writing. And so he does this analysis of how we're left-brained or right-brained, and how actually, some of the old research was that we're either left brain or right brain, or mostly one or the other. And basically he's saying we need both. But what our modern culture has done is move us all to left brain activity, which is the problem solving, the decision making, the high efficiency, the hyper productive, everything that I was feeling myself slide into. And he's saying the problem is that our right brain is where we find meaning. It's where we're creative. It's where we know that people are the point. And our culture is squeezing that out of us. And so reading this on the heels of my break, reading this in the midst of the tornado was so eye-opening, because anything that's grounded in research really gets my attention. And when I read it, I felt like, yes, I can I can feel this. This makes so much sense to me, because I think that's what I've done over the years of my career, is continue to move more and more left brain and eking out the part of me that needs the creativity and needs the space, needs the mental processing. Like, I actually love that part of how I'm wired. He goes on to say, we need to give our attention to skills that can develop our capacity to find meaning in the mysterious spaces of life. That is about how to live day to day with an open mind and an open heart, so you can take on the complex and the unknown as they come at you and meet them with a spirit of love, courage, and adventure. Can I tell you how much I saw that in my community this week? Literally, you guys, there's a group text thread of the ladies in my neighborhood. And every day they wake up and say, who needs help today? And they mobilize, right? They're just saying people are the point, and how can we be present to this moment and to the needs in front of us? And that is how they've responded all week long. And it's been the most beautiful thing to watch in the midst of people who have lost everything, the entire community just rallying and saying, who needs help? How can we help? Like, I've seen that like right brain response to people so beautifully. He says further, he says, we need to have times of stillness and inactivity where we do nothing and defocus. Inactivity is incredibly important for the proper functioning of our minds. When your mind wanders, you involuntarily dig into complex right brain topics. And this was the thing that I noticed the most from my break, was when I would have those times to do nothing and I just had space to think. It was so refreshing. It was so rewarding. And I almost felt guilty for it, because I so loved and craved more of it. And it reminded me of how I've squeezed so much of that out of my life that it's actually hindering my productivity. It's hindering my leadership. And so what I came away with was this need for making space for the essentials, for the right brain things, right? For the creativity, the thinking, the planning, but the essentials of people, of being present and being purpose-driven. The last week with the tornado was a test of that, 100%. Like, I did only the essentials that I needed to do for work. And literally, it's probably all I could do, because we didn't have power and we didn't have internet. So it was like every morning I tackled the most critical things that I needed to do for work. And then I got back out there in my neighborhood with people, serving in practical ways. So my question for you in today's episode is the same question I asked you 6 weeks ago. I said, what can you do that disrupts your rhythms, lowers your heart rate, helps you hear God more clearly, helps you connect with the people you love the most? How can you disconnect your doing from your being? And I want you to live with that question. I want you to go get Arthur Brooks' book, Meaning of Life, and I want you to read it. And I want you to think about whether you're making space for that right brain, creative, processing, quiet that he talks about. And I'd hope you don't have a tornado that kind of forces you into those moments of just figuring out what the essentials are. But I want you to really think about, what do you need to do as a leader to make sure you've built rhythms that sustain you, rhythms that are healthy, rhythms that help you get the space to think, to plan, to process, to focus on people, to focus on being present, to focus on being purpose-driven. I raised the question because I think it's essential for leaders to be healthy and thriving, and to create the cultures where teams are healthy and thriving. So friends, process that. Send me your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you're processing. You can email me at jennicatron@getforesight.com. I've got some great episodes coming for you, because I did have some ideas and was generating some things behind the scenes that I've been working on now in between tornado cleanup. But finding meaning, significance, purpose, and finding rhythms that support that is one of the healthiest things we can do as leaders, and then create that for our teams as well. Friends, thanks for joining me today. If you're in the middle of growth, maybe a merger or a crisis, and you're thinking, we need some help, I want you to trust that instinct. Our team at Foresight offers free discovery calls to help you get clear on where your culture stands and what to do next. So head to getforesight.com to schedule your free call with one of our culture strategists, and let us help you build a growing, thriving, and unstoppable team. So keep leading well, and I will see you back next time.